Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Michael Kardamakis, the man behind Endyma, the single largest Helmut Lang archive on Earth. Interestingly, this is larger than Helmut Lang's own internal archive.
Which I know a version of that story of what happened to helmets. I assume you know like what really happened.
I have no authority on this, on like sort of Helmut Lang gossip. There was a fire in the air, in the space, and the fire alarms went off, and the fire alarms kind of stained everything.
In this video, we're going to use this collection of clothes to talk about how a brand evolves over time, the innovation behind some of the most overlooked designs in the archive, and a blueprint for how designers can find inspiration in the most unusual places. Michael and I actually talked for almost 3 hours, him just showing me dozens and dozens of different pieces and telling me about the microscopic details of Helmut's work. If you want to watch the full detail, it's on our Patreon right now. Go join it up. Patreon.com/BlissFoster. Let's get into it. I'm a little bit of a people pleaser, so we're going to start off with actually never before seen Helmut Lang clothes, the one-offs, the oldest single pieces and the stuff that you can't find anywhere else. Michael has just about literally everything. To start, some may, just a few people may have these white floral jeans from the brand like as their grail, but what you didn't know is that there's a black version of them that in my mind looks a lot cooler.
Oh my gosh. That is gorgeous.
It's
This is so much better in the black.
And you can even see how the print looked on these jeans when it was made just by unstitching this hem. All of a sudden you can get insight into what they were like when they were first released. You cannot find a picture of this product on Google, I promise. I've really looked. These jeans are truly hard to find. So what we know about Helmut Lang is that he used to own a clothing store in Vienna before he decided to seriously show in Paris in the fall of '86. This jacket is the oldest Helmut Lang item in this archive, and it's so unexpected in the way that it's actually executed.
Oh, this is not under the Helmut Lang label.
no, and you see this finishing. It starts to get a bit heritagey.
I know, yeah, that seemed very strange.
And look at this finishing here. It's quite odd for Helmut anyway. And
Tacky. It seems tacky.
yeah, like it's not like something he would do. And also you see it's like very poorly sewn here, like they really.
I know. I was wondering if maybe it warped with time, or if that was how it applied.
It's probably when you sew this fabric, it stretches a bit. So they sew it like this. So this part stretches down, and they sew this like that. So this part stretches the opposite way.
Okay.
It's a manufacturing error.
We then have these weird printed t-shirts that are, it seems like they'd be just about priceless. We have studio prototypes that were never put into mass production, and some random lifestyle accessories that are also pretty difficult to find.
The Helmut Lang pencil case. The Helmut Lang boarding pass. The Helmut Lang cigarette holder.
I mean, this is it. We have much more stuff here, though, than just the super rare, well-known pieces. We start now with how Helmut Lang's designs evolved over time. The best way to do that, surprisingly, is in simple pieces, like these tank tops and these slashed shirts.
What we have is this typology that I like to think about it in terms of like an ape to human or something. So you start off with a garment category like sleeveless tops, and you begin with the lightest and weirdest sleeveless tops, where you have barely any top left.
And this, by the way, I just have to jump in and say this is one of the most overlooked parts of Helmut Lang's career, is that he was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, deeply invested in doing avant-garde lingerie. And that is something that barely anybody seems to touch on anymore in like archive pages and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's also because the stuff is quite hard to find. And it's not quite lingerie as much as it's actually a tank, but they just removed the body of it. It's somewhere in between. Like this is also like, it takes elements from like a bra, but it's not quite a bra. So you started off with these like very strange tanks. And towards the end of this category, you have a normal tank, like something like this, like a plain sort of textbook definition of a tank. And in between, you have all these different explorations of the shape. So for example, you have this is version 1. This is a tank where they kind of deconstructed the shoulder area a bit, and they added this hand stitching, and they created this boob dart, which was the summer 2001 collection's one of their signatures. So this is version 1. Then this is version 2, where the some of the details you saw before have been eliminated, but here the straps form a drawstring, so that it creates a bit of tension when you wear it. And then you have version 3, which is, this piece is constructed entirely differently with 2 layers of fabric, so that you achieve this clean finishing here. And there's a dart again, and there's a pleat here. And these are actually plastic tags from, like safety tag gun.
What they would put tags on, like at a supermarket?
Yeah, like this,
Wow.
the thing you apply with a tag gun, this
Yeah.
kind of transparent thing that you just pierce through.
Weird.
Yeah, quite weird. And then you have version 4, which is the same darts, but explored in a bit of a more body-conscious way with another set down there that forms like a little body-conscious panel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the same stitching as before. So it kind of becomes like this exercise in variations almost. With this brand in general, they do the same thing again and again in different ways. Like you have this one, which is a tank that has been, the shoulder strap has been detached, so it creates like this kind of small point of interest. And then you have this weird asymmetric chest piece on top. And then you have another one where the chest piece is an entirely different shape, and then the tank is just like cut a bit higher on the front. So it really becomes like this exercise of solutions, the thing we talked about before. Like here you have a tank, this is from the mid-90s, a bit more like a more iconic Helmut Lang look, where he uses like this basketball drop stitch mesh fabric, and they take the lace trim that you would put like on the edge of like a tablecloth or something, and they insert it in the opposite way. Normally you're supposed to sew it from here, but instead they kind of insert it with the edge on the inside. What you have here is basically just like the same tank, kind of just executed in different ways. And obviously this you can only really understand when you see them all next to each other and you start noticing these things. It's quite a subtle way of working. And then this approach resets with every category. So here you have some of Helmut Lang's classic slashed t-shirts. This one in particular is from summer '99. And it has this kind of particular like plant cell inspired print. And then this one is from winter '95.
Wow.
That's 4 years before pretty much. That has this irregular phoenix print on this transparent nylon. That was one of their signature fabrics in the 90s. And then you have this version from winter '99 that takes from the biker theme of this collection and executed in this kind of underwear fabric. So I really like this one because it feels like it has this structure of protective biker garments on this very fine underwear, like pajama type material. But yeah, you start seeing, they keep making the same thing over and over. Like that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to say, is that they execute similar ideas again and again. And people were like cool with that somehow. People kept buying.
As you can see, the best part about seeing these pieces evolve is that you realize that design is what you don't see. It's what comes between the individual season's clothes. In a way, business limitations can at times really help a designer push their own vision because they're forced to get creative in their output. You can really see how this design through limitations works out better for these specific pieces.
On the other hand, you have the product team kind of requiring you to populate the collection with at least 3 jeans, 2 trousers, 2 knits, whatever, and it becomes like this practical thing that we have so many things to design, and after a certain point the mind goes and it's just like I can't just go to Morocco for a week and do like a brainstorming thing and just like find God and design all these things. I need to look at stuff that works, that I like. Then I'm like, okay, this coat has a nice shape. Let's do this fucking coat. We can make the sleeve a bit longer and add our signature pockets or whatever, and that's like good enough. And this is how any form of applied design works.
Here we actually have a great example of what Michael refers to as meaninglessly simple design. When we're so consistently exposed to certain ideas, it becomes hard to find them important or even legendary when they become so ubiquitous. No one's heralding the inventor of the toothbrush, for example, and that's the beauty of some of these Helmut Lang pieces. They serve as the inspiration for most of what we could consider to be just normal stuff today. And small military-inspired printed text on t-shirts is just the start of this idea.
These are some of the most imitated prints out there, in my personal opinion. Like this, based on typography type approach, like sans serif letters. This one in particular, they made when they moved to America, and it's inspired from like a kind of warship branding, like the USS Destroyer or whatever. It's like, it kind of looks like that. And on the back you have like this kind of obscure, like
Summer camp?
yeah, like like there's something cool going on that you don't really understand what it's about. Sometimes they have phone numbers, sometimes they have addresses. I think this is their location of their offices or something. Like yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on. It's like this aesthetic that now again becomes almost meaningless. Okay, cool weird text on a t-shirt, I might have seen it like about 1 million times.
Yeah, that's at PacSun now.
But it has a starting point, and it's kind of here, I would say. You have a lot of stuff that also no one's ever seen before, like this one. Like, what is this? What does it mean? It has this little branding here. So this makes it their 9th collection, so winter 95.
And this, oh man, this looks so strongly like the Ralph Simmons stuff that came much later, like the Father's collection and stuff, like this sort of like copy and pasted very sloppily idea, and then just kind of stamping things that you don't understand the source of. I had no idea that this was something that was part of Helmut Lang's early aesthetic.
Yeah, I've only seen this t-shirt once also. I have no clue. All we have like this one. I really like this one. This is a limited edition they did.
Yeah, this is so weird.
In 93 for ID magazine. So they had this collection actually in summer 93 that was like obsessed with like cheap rock and roll gestures. This is like the back. And this was like a mail order type merch. And it was 14 pounds shipped, which felt nice.
Legendary.
Anyway, yeah, like it really is like, this is just like a bunch of different prints basically that I like. You have like, this is from 98.
Is it off center?
It's just twisted over time, the t-shirt itself.
Got it.
I don't think it is so off-center though, this one. Maybe they got it a bit wrong in this one, but it shouldn't be anyway. And it has this type of print on the back, quite retro. And then this is Summer 4, which is a bit of a more iconic
legendary
t-shirt, where the print is done on the inside, so you kind of see it through the material. But you see, like, it's the same thing. It's
all speaking the same language.
They were really unpacking something that that was already there almost. That's how I feel about it.
But of course, what the menswear obsessives are here for is the jackets. Legendary pieces that for some are the end-all, be-all, not just of jackets, but of clothing. But instead of just observing, we're going to talk about the idea of inspiration and how it comes about, as well as how designers find inspiration in the work of others. You'd be surprised at how many household names have explored these pieces.
Can we cover the like kind of the legendary coats?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Can we kind of just go through, because I would say this is probably the most well-known, one of the more legendary pieces that Helmut Lang ever made, or at least it's one of the first ones that I ever found.
Yeah, well, with this piece, it's kind of also quite popular, I think, in terms of like the people who have worn it. I would invite people to also think of Helmut Lang's work in terms of like discovering it a bit, and like it's kind of an easy way into a brand to just see what Travis Scott wore or whatever, and kind of just reproducing that. But definitely, I'm a big fan of these pieces. This is like a fabric that really softens with wear, and you have this kind of hardcore piece that's like super fun to wear. And it has this neckline inspired from firefighter jackets, and these details that are kind of like a biker / astronaut kind of combination of features. And this thing here from biker coveralls that doesn't really do anything. This was actually the first Helmut Lang piece I bought ever. Not this very one, but this design was the first Helmut Lang piece I ever bought. I found it again since, because I had sold it. And this one was an interesting thing. I bought it on eBay for like about 100, which...
That's insane.
Yeah, at different times. And then I put it up on sale because it was way too big for me. And I didn't really like it. And so it went for like 400 or 500. Back then for me, on my first year of university, that felt like a pretty good score. And it went to Givenchy's headquarters.
Wow.
So, you write the address down, and it says like Avenue George V, number 5. And you're like, what is this? This reminds me of something.
I recognize that street name.
Yeah, and it was, I guess, one of these moments that made me realize, okay, maybe we're up to something. Because that was like a really good flip. And at the same time, like, these cool people are interested in this. So perhaps this is worth like exploring further.
Was that when Tichy was at?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
If you see Givenchy collections from around 2009, 2010, this jacket is everywhere, constantly. Sometimes it's the neckline, sometimes it's this particular combination of pocket and Velcro here. Tichy is a very, very big Helmut Lang fan. And actually, Tichy's probably favorite Helmut Lang thing, I would say, is this. This coat. The Helmut Lang M65 inspired parka, which is basically the idea is that they took a US Army parka and kind of reduced its features. Like on this variation from Winter 2000, they've even put like tailoring style pockets and they've shortened it to form a jacket. But you still have this massive hood that is originally designed to fit a helmet in there. So it's really a gigantic shape that when closes is formed like this very ornate kind of like collar thing. And it really looks like nothing else but this design. And you can sort of see it in a lot of Tichy's creations over the years, like this massive hood with this very particular Velcro closure. This is Helmut Lang's classic Chesterfield coat that we also saw before, but this is a variation for women. And Helmut Lang will approach materials with a certain purity. Like this is a camel coat made out of camel wool. That is the natural material that has this camel collar, basically. And again, looking at it from a more like detail point of view, you have like the straps to carry it like a backpack. You have like these super lovely pockets that are clearly for someone to actually use this garment rather than just like look cool in it. Helmut Lang never claimed to be a brand that was like about a unisex wardrobe or a brand that was like about like creating this perfect wardrobe. But they actually did execute this. They did create a brand where clothes were largely unisex and were based on forming like this core wardrobe. But it just happened without a marketing brief to it, like a brand, like clothes that almost anyone could wear. But yeah, so it's interesting that they ended up there to something that now is considered very is considered very like on point anyway. So you have a coat like this that's like a kind of everyday like beater type coat, and inside it has this harness system and the straps to secure the coat to the legs when it's worn on a bike.
Wow.
So this is something that he saw from like these Dutch army coats from the 50s, and they made their version of it. And it started off first as a detail on outerwear, which is like closer to its original purpose. And then at the end it becomes like a thing that just hangs from tops and dresses, and it just becomes this abstract point of interest, just like a square piece falling symmetrically from either side of the garment. They just made simple clothes feel special. I think that's like a talent that they had. So this is like a very fine woven plastic fiber. It's not the best for wearing, but it has this very tactile finish. And actually, I've spent some time trying to understand what could the inspiration be for these pieces? And I was thinking about like retro windsurf sails. Like my family in Greece were quite into like windsurfing, and you start seeing like this is kind of like a windsurf sail in the form of a garment. It has the same color blocking of these 80s windsurf sails, and windsurf sails have this particular quality that the vast majority of the sail piece is opaque in whatever colors, but then it has a see-through area in the middle so that when you hold the sail against the wind or whatever, you can still see the coastline. You can still see like the sea line, even if the sail is in front of you. So it's like this color block thing with a transparent section in the middle. And then I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Also, like you see, like has this opaque section here. So this is like 2 or 3 different print techniques in the same garment.
Oh, wow.
And you see that the opaque section cuts right above the breasts. So, you know, a more pragmatic approach would be, you know, make an opaque section where you want to hide like the nipple or something like this. But they do it right above. Oh, it highlights the breast, if anything. You have like an opaque section and there's like, boom. As you move forward, we have shirts. Okay. One of my favorite shirts has got to be this one, where you can really see with these shirts Helmut Lang's influence on Calvin Klein by Raf Simons, where you have this kind of marching band, minimalist aesthetic with this color blocking. And this one is from Winter 97, and it has these velvet applications. And this version here is from Summer 98. It's the same shirt in a slightly lighter fabric. And at this stage, it's really about catching them all in terms of color variations. There's still a couple that I'm missing. Yeah, it's like the same shirt. Or even a piece like this. It really captures something, like this is like the Helmut Lang jeans line aesthetic. This thing that the mainline stuff often can be like quite deconstructed and strappy, and then the diffusion line is like so well put together and proper and almost archetypal in its in the way they designed. It really, for me at least, it really invites me to start thinking about like the proportion of the collar, the position of the pockets, and it starts to look like a Helmut Lang shirt, but it really is also a textbook definition of a shirt. And these ones actually are the ones that Calvin Klein really looked at. There's a version of this by Calvin Klein.
This color palette especially is very much the Raf Simons Calvin Klein stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we worked with them also, I'm happy. And then we move on.
As always, taking time with fashion and exploring it closely will always lead to a better understanding. This experience is the perfect way to underscore that point. Again, if you want the full 3-hour conversation about this archive, go join the Patreon right now and unlock that one and tons of other exclusive videos and full-length interviews. We have a shit ton on there at this point. And also, I just gotta say it, if you're a designer looking for inspiration and a vast array of clothing solutions, and if you're a clothing collector yourself, and if you're on the hunt for a specific piece, or if you're just looking to examine clothing as part of wider research projects, the Endyma archive is the best resource I've ever been to or even heard about. No one is paying me to say this. I just really believe in the value of what Michael is doing with this archive, and the entire team behind it are absolute professionals with a great wealth of knowledge. I'll be linking them in the description. If seriously, they do archive tours for companies. If you want to pay them for a tour, and Michael is there to give you all of the information you could ever need. You can rent out pieces for a certain price, and they even help you find specific pieces you're looking for. Invaluable resource. If you need any of those services, you really should hit them up. They're the best in the world.